Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tarnished Bronze. You know what you're in for. We're delving into some of the more unusual or some of the overlooked stuff from the Bronze Age, as well as some of the more obscure things that, or just, unheralded things that kind of excite me in the world of modern comics. And today is more of the latter. So we are dealing with The Gloaming by Hans Rickeit. This is the soft cover edition. You can get it in hardcover. This, of course, is from the Mansion Press. You can see it's quite lavishly presented there. It's out of focus, but it does have the soft flaps. And just fair warning, this is quite a cheeky tome, and it is sort of nice and oversized, and the paper stock is fantastic. So I recommend getting a hold of this. You can also get it from some of the outlets in the United States. I think Pulp Comics might have this in stock still. But it is it's pretty hefty. It's kind of like one of the album sized graphic novel sized things. It is part one, and think I have part two, and part three may also be available, or at least coming soon. So without further sort of ado, I haven't really gotten any further into Hans Rickeit or Rickeit. Not sure how you pronounce his name. I'm very sorry. I haven't really gotten much into any of his other stuff, but I saw the promo and the previews of this in a Mansion Press missive, and just kind of really was intrigued by the whole kind of cartooning style here. And essentially, it really um, the intention for this book was to be smutty. So you can see here attention masturbators, and it goes into kind of like what he wanted to do with this story. But it is what it says on the tin. It's smutty, but our smut could always be improved. And I think he really sort of succeeds here. And we get the cast of characters. We've got Jade, Magenta, and Celeste, who are these, and Amber, who are all these sort of twins. Amber is the more sensitive and shy and reserved one, and the other three are kind of like pretty out there, to be honest. And Gomper is kind of like a village or a town simpleton, and Popper is ostensibly their father, but we're not so sure about it. Now, Jade, Magenta, and Celeste are quite vivacious, quite precocious. They're quite interested in taking advantage and being taken advantage of by our friend Gomper. And so the book doesn't pull any punches, but I thought I'd leave the gratuitous nudity out. And like I said, they're very adventurous. They cross the highway, as you can see here, into town. The world looks really lived in. The textures are really great in the art, and Hans does a good sort of story of getting across kind of like their uh seedy kind of interests. Let's put it that way. However, Amber is the more kind of reserved one, as I said, and she's more into some artistic stuff, and she is just like less outgoing and less vivacious, maybe outwardly, than her other three sisters. Although she also is someone who sort of knows a bit more right from wrong, and so when the others threaten to either smash her artworks or eat the puppies, she chooses the puppies, and that's kind of like interesting to this Papa sort of father figure, and a source of consternation for her sisters. And you can really get the sort of strangeness and kind of like bizarreness of the world by just what's going on with Papa and his vacuum cleaner attached to himself there, and he's kind of like got this basement with this beautiful brickwork and stuff downstairs. So yeah, not all is what it seems. And he seems to just really have this sort of nefarious kind of lab that he's doing things in. And you can see what he's doing with the lab here. He's growing these vats, but some of the clones have escaped. And they're kind of out to get our hero. So I purposefully edited out a lot of the sort of more sort of unsavory for YouTube stuff. There is a lot of that. The artwork in it is very inventive, so it never sort of descends into just really sort of one note sort of things like that. But it kind of it kind of has a lot of that in it. So if that's not your cup of tea, probably part one isn't for you. But I encourage you, if you kind of like these slow burn and kind of unusual uh, takes on domestication and so on and so forth, and a quiet, isolated life, then this is kind of might be right up your alley. And I just missed in the little slide presentation one of the better panels, and so I'm going to share it here. And so you can see Popper and his kind of like nefarious basement lab that he has here. So on the surface, it's this gratuitous nudity. Under that level, I think it's kind of like maybe a sort of Cinderella story. And then under that level, further is kind of like a comment on what happens when we create all of these things that maybe aren't human. So we're in the world where I think the AI sex bot is going to be pretty close. Is that going to make all of us men into these soul living basement masturbation enthusiasts? Now, instead of doing that by ourselves, we're going to have all of these flash bots to sort of do it with. So it does make you think a little bit. I'm giving it a big sort of hype for the art. I think I'd be interested, especially in Hans's next work, and if it's more palatable to sort of the mainstream audience, all the better. And if he chooses not to, then good luck to him. The art definitely is really strong, and the textures and the coloring of the world really, really make the difference. And like I said, with those sort of monsters and the clones, so these are the sort of clones that look normal. There seems to be clones that have escaped out into the wild, and they're doing a lot of stuff. And then I'm just going to show you some of there's kind of these monster wars that are going on here. So it seems like this is going to be a bit more to it than just sort of like the Fantagraphics Eros sort of sideline where it's just all about the sex and less about the story. It seems like there might be some good monster kind of stuff going on here. So without further ado, we've been Tarnished Bronze. Like, follow, and subscribe. We're kind of always looking at these weird things or these overlooked things. This has been the Gloaming, and we will see you next time, hopefully with Patrick in tow.